right, not professional time. There we go. Welcome to this. There you go. Welcome to this episode of the Swing and Miss podcast. I am your host Winslow, and today we have a wonderful guest, Arietta. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and did I say it right? Is it Arietta or Arietta?
Arietta.
All right, cool. I did a little bit of research. But so how's things been?
Good. I mean, a little crazy. I just moved back across the country about 3 months ago, getting resettled here in the Southwest. I have an almost 2-year-old, so that's always crazy. Demanding work and trying to keep up with DJing and my radio show and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah, I know. I know that feeling. Yeah. So for people who may or may not be familiar with you, how would you describe yourself and like what you do or what you like to do and that kind of question?
Well, for Arietta, I guess I am a DJ and producer. I've been DJing, wow, I like 15 plus years here in the Southwest. I moved to the East Coast for a little bit. But yeah, I've done some releases on smaller labels, a lot of self-release stuff. I have a radio show and a blog called Bass Movement. We have, over 120 episodes or something like that now. Yeah.
No, it's it's pretty awesome. I think when I first came across you, I think it was last year for you won the contest, the hospital DJ contest, I think. And then you did I just had the name down. Look at this note. The house party set, because they had me do that, and I was just like, wow. So yeah, but that's no. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience in and of itself, because hospital, they've been their music has been the cornerstone of my live sets, for as long as I can remember. And I remember seeing the competition. I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fucking do this. And I did, and I was so honored to be on their hospitality stream. It was with Flava D, and it was cool. Paula and Bryson. And then Crate Classics was on that one. So yeah, that was fun. It was a cool series they had going. Even just to tune in and be a part of the chat for those was really cool.
Yeah, it's I don't know how it might have felt for you, but it was kind of intense. I don't know. I'm kind of used to watching myself and then seeing a chat at this point. What do people think? And then everyone's everyone's a critic on the internet, especially when it comes to DJing. How are you mixing this way or this? You just enjoy it. But just looking back, because I looked through it and listened through it again a day or two ago, and people overwhelmingly positive. I think about what you do. I think that's really awesome.
It was definitely cool to have the reach that hospital provides. I mean, I feel like I have a good reach on DMB radio. It's a bigger radio station, but video content's not always available. But I specifically during that stream, people ask for IDs of tracks and stuff, and someone ID'd my track, and I was just like, oh my god, that was that made my heart jump. Because I'm not anything. I'm not anything special in production. I have a lot of growing I need to do in that area. Want to do. That was probably the thing that made me the happiest.
No, it's kind of what you said. Okay, so first, I love your productions, by the way. So you have a fan. I don't know, but it's in the chats and stuff. People know. It's weird to see how well people know you or your music, because there are people like digging things that I've just taken off SoundCloud years ago, and they're like, "Oh, it's this one." Like, how come? How do you know that? Or how like this small little fact, but people like dig, and especially when it comes to like now that I'm starting to learn, like the hospital like fandom, like they know like catalog numbers that have disappeared and stuff like that. From I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely
mm.
it's a way of life, but it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. It's grown so much too. It's
mm.
nice to see the growth over the years in it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you've, I feel like you're kind of like me, is that you've like grown up as a musician. Was that something that, like, when did, I guess, like your musical like journey start?
Well, I was 7 or 8. I started
So,
playing trumpet
nice.
first, and then played all through elementary, and during that time picked up saxophone, clarinet, guitar, drums, just like did everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then um when I got to high school, even though I was the best trumpet player in my Catholic school,
Hmm.
I was the worst trumpet player
Oh
when
my
I
God.
moved to
I,
to public school.
oh, I know that feeling.
Um, so like when I was gonna join marching band, you suck. You need to play euphonium. Like,
Mhm.
okay. I did that for a year, and then I switched to tuba because tuba players have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I played bassoon in high school too.
Why?
Then came to college, and I carried on playing bassoon and studied jazz composition, but then
Mm.
I studied electronic, audio engineering,
Yeah.
and it fused into. I went to this like private arts college to graduate in Santa Fe, and like they were able. My degree is in contemporary music, but the focus is electroacoustic composition. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, by the end of my degree, I was like wiring up my bassoon and running it through Max
Mhm.
MSP and just like
Yeah.
making dubstep sounds with it,
Oh
and
my
like
God.
it was some fun stuff. Yeah, and then I went on to ASU for masters, and I mean, at that time, I knew I was not a performer,
Mm.
like a bassoonist. So like, I mean, I still played,
Yeah.
but I was focusing on ethnomusicology because that's where it was like a lifelong dream at that point because I have such an appreciation for world cultures,
Mm.
and I just wanted to dive into what was going on there. So,
Wow. Yeah. I know. Oh man. That's just like completely like relatable because I was doing the same thing and I had just basically like graduated by the time they were like, let's wire your viola up and do that because I was like kind of learning and doing some like programming in Max and trying to like just make noises basically, which is like kind of like it's almost like a cheat within like electroacoustic music and like new music. It's like just make noise and then like justify
it's
artistically
sound
why,
art.
yeah,
Not that.
yeah. It's like if you can just come up with a nice like educational way to say that it's music and everyone just accepts it and then you present it and things like that, and my like professors
Yeah.
were like trying to get me into it, and they also knew I kind of produced music a little bit because I hadn't gotten that far yet or anything, but it was just like, oh, Duncan makes music and he's releasing things and stuff, and they're just like, we don't know what that is, like my string teachers and stuff, but they knew like the tech professors and like electroacoustic music, and they were starting to bring that stuff over. They're like, yeah, so you want to do that on your viola, or like they would have like the Ableton guy, like the one spokesperson that travels to like every school, come talk to us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
man, did you? I just have, I guess, my own questions. Like, did you ever get kind of like burnt out on like traditional like music school and things like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I it was tough. Like luckily I crammed like all of the theory and like
Mm-hmm.
composition type classes at the front end, I was pushing like 25
Oh
to
my.
30 credits a semester.
Yep.
That was
Yeah.
stupid. Um, but like towards, I actually graduated in my undergrad, I graduated a semester early.
Mm.
Um, and I just, like it was kind of like a finish line type thing. I did a lot of really unhealthy things, like staying awake for several days, but it's just like I need to get out of like this system. And I like the I guess like for the music school part, I switched concentrations like essentially every year and a half.
Mm.
So that kind of kept it somewhat fresh for me. It was
Yeah.
just kind of the general structure. It's hard. Yeah. And I can't imagine going back to school now.
Mm.
Yeah, that won't happen.
Yeah. Like I came across like the same thing of just the huge like course loads and like 20, almost 30 credits for sure. Like even when I started out and was like, I don't know if I want to do this, or just like let's pile on the classes and get it out.
Hmm.
And like music is one of those like degree programs are just like so stacked compared to anything else. Just like all the
Yeah.
classes you have to do, and then if you miss one or like because of scheduling or fail one, it's just like you have to wait like a year and a half because of like the way the cycle runs. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's I don't I'm glad I'm done. That's how I'll wrap
Yeah.
that one up. But um I think so. You said you have your master's in ethnomusicology. Do you How do you think that carries over, or not carries over, but like works up into now? Because I think, well, mine's like music education. I like now people are like, oh yeah, that's why you just like don't shut up on YouTube all the time. You're just talking about stuff. But do you feel like that carries over into anything you do now, especially like informing maybe the way you write music, or just definitely probably what you're into, like your influences and stuff. If I'm on the right kind of
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it directly carries over to like my professional life and stuff. And when that I work with like jazz and world music artists.
Mm,
But like on the more artistic side, yeah, I still dive pretty deep into primarily electronic music from around the world. For a while I was like really interested in bass music coming out of the Balkan region,
oh,
and like seeing like certain crossovers and how like the Balkan brass band sound is like seeping into like the like mainstream sounds
mm,
and things like that. So that stuff generally piques my interest, and I spend a lot of time listening. I'll yeah. So and then like when I'm like writing, the way it carries over now is my productions are very very busy.
mm,
It's like I was taught to write like for a symphony,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's not the way you write electronic music.
no,
Just like yeah. So yeah, that's I think that's like one of my main struggles
mm,
when producing. But yeah, I certainly like sampling old records. I have like pretty extensive record
uh,
collection, and I try to keep the music and my sound. And more recently, I've been softening up my sound because, it's been pretty neurofunk heavy the past like forever. Well,
mm.
aside from when I produce break beats, but yeah. So I'm like working on smoothing things out a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, because it made me think about that because like I have always been kind of into more of like music and well, music. Obviously, it's a terrible way to say that, but just like music and different cultures and different sounds. Just being like a curious kind of person. I think that's how I mean, that's why I play like the viola. I had no idea anything about that when I started, or probably why I'm into like drum and bass. And I've always been into like the alternative things. At least when I was growing up, they were more like alternative kind of, for me at least, like being into rock music and metal music instead of maybe rap music or being into orchestra. And then I was skateboarding since I was a little kid, and like growing up then it was always like, why do you skateboard? Like you don't skate. It's like this, and then now it's like it's the acceptable thing. I don't know. So I think about it, but I feel like there's always something in that kind of time when you're like growing up, when you're like starting to realize the things that you're into instead of like just being into kind of what your parents or siblings are into and like that. And so like it kind of makes me kind of guess like when did you or how did you like discover, since like we're both within the world of drum and bass, I guess, like how did you kind of
Mhm.
make that bridge or discover that, like when that happened, or just electronic music in
Sure.
general maybe.
Yeah, so like my dad listened to electronic music. He wasn't like a raver or anything,
Hmm.
but he like really liked like Paul Van Dyke
Oh yeah.
and like trance, like old school trance, you know. So I remember listening to that stuff with him in junior high and going to record shops and stuff. And my parents, when they got a divorce, my freshman year of high school,
Hmm.
I started, rebelling, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
started going to raves and all of that stuff. And I just like I remember walking into my first rave, and there was this local duo that was like pretty big in like the Southwest called Robotech.
Hmm.
They're not together anymore, but yeah, like that was just like the first time I heard
Yeah.
an inline mic, and it was like, whoa, like
Right.
just it just like opened my mind. And I remember like these like they used to have like these raves, and I mean like warehouses, but just like multiple rooms. And
Hmm.
I mean I'm sure they still do now, I just don't
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
in. Yeah, I just stayed in that drum and bass room all night, and like it was like a place of like solace and like comfort.
Hmm.
And I really leaned into that music when during that difficult time in my life. And
Yeah.
like as I grew older, I noticed like like I like all types of music. Like I'll like heavily listen to jazz for a while, and like like all this everything. But
Hmm.
whenever some shit's going down, I will listen to drum and bass, and it's like that meme, it just hugs you. It's like
Yeah. Like everything will be
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. That's my relationship with it.
Nice. And you're from Phoenix, is that right?
Yeah,
Arizona?
yeah. Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's like the scene there? Because I always it's kind of was a question of like, oh, USDNB is one scene. It's like, no, it's not. Not really. We're all just so spread apart. And like compared to me having been in St. Louis and now in Kansas City, which are both places that there are basically no drum and bass scene. What was it like, kind of growing up where there is one, and then like you can like skip out of the house to go to a rave or something. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, let's watch a YouTube video and live vicariously through this crowd. You know?
Yeah, I mean it was really nice. Most of the raves that were happening back when I was a raver,
Mm.
I'm really aging myself right now, man. Um yeah, no, when it was like yeah, they weren't just drum and bass parties specifically. They would be like drum bass, hardcore, have a house room, all
Mm.
that type of stuff. I mean now certainly there's, and probably over the past five-ish, maybe a little more. But like definitely in like the past 5 years or so,
Yeah.
um, crews have developed here in Phoenix. Before I had moved away to Boston 4 years ago, uh, there was some drum and bass parties. There's like Collective Intelligence would throw a couple things. There was this older night called Digital Theory.
Mm.
That was like 8 years ago now. But yeah, so there was like periodic. like little things. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago that they were like the big production company here, Relentless Beats, started bringing in drum and bass acts on a regular basis. So I mean, like they would before,
Mm.
like, Noisia Tour,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like Annette Sky. But like it's definitely more consistent now. And now there's like several different crews. There's like Melt and Rumble, and everyone's trying to make things going. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, I haven't been out to anything and since the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
And before the pandemic, I was in Boston, which has a robust
Mm.
scene
Oh yeah.
elements. It's just that was heaven. It's just like, I like totally okay, like going to work hungover because I saw Alex Perez on a
Man,
Thursday
I
night. It's
wish.
just like,
Yeah.
like Chimpo, like everybody,
Mm.
like it was just insane. Like they have like, yeah. I remember like the first month that I played them, like there was like Goldie on that month,
Mm.
and like I mean, like it
Jeez.
was insane. It's such a robust scene, and like everyone there is so wonderful. It's like a really really big family
Mm.
element. So I'm pretty sad I didn't get to go back before they opened up again. Yeah, I
Wow.
miss Elements.
Yes. There's so many stories like I've heard just like from friends who have been in like the Boston, Philly, just East Coast really, of just like there's so much going on. And I'm almost like, why can't things happen in the middle of nowhere where I am? Yeah. Yeah, but like so like in within all of this, like when did Arietta come to be? Like when were you like, I want to be more than kind of not more than like a fan, but just like I want to try and make things or DJing, and then radio shows and everything that comes with that. Like when did that start?
Well, I decided that I wanted to like get somewhat serious about things when I was like 18.
Oh,
I got like my first set of turntables like when I was 16 or 17.
mm,
It was like shortly after, a couple years after I started like raving. And but then like that overlapped with college, and I moved around a lot during college, so like I wasn't able to like I had like some little club residencies and stuff like that.
yeah.
But nothing serious. And then when I was starting my master's, my boyfriend at the time and I had a breakbeat duo. We were just like
Oh.
producing breaks. Yeah, just, that's it. We were called Proper 13. Don't look up our music.
Okay.
Yeah, it's deeply hidden on the internet. Yeah, I mean it's fine. You can.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just really early shit.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, so we produced breaks for a couple years, and then I don't know. I was just like I like breaks, but I like them faster,
yeah,
so a
yeah.
lot more. So it's just like I reverted back to drum and bass, and I think like after that is like when I took it really seriously,
Mm,
and I like started pushing my brand and like implementing what I knew professionally for
right.
myself, and like organizing shit and throwing shows. And
Wow. That's I don't know. Like I think that's one of the things. Like when we first, I think when you like invited me for your radio show, and I don't know, I'm probably just like in my own head a lot of the time, just like, oh yeah, I'll just ask, like just ask, and, like, oh, I'll just do this, I'll send you a mix, it's fine. And but then like you send me like a write up and a PDF, I'm like, okay, professional. And then I learned more about you. It's like, okay, so like aside from Arietta, you are working with was a management company doing PR, booking agent. You said things like that. It's like, okay, so I need to not goof around, maybe, or not goof around, but just I don't know, not be like me too much. But I think that's like a big thing that I've tried to work on, and I've also tried to convince a lot of people to also. It's just like it seems like it's like, oh, for the music, it's for the love, it's just drum and bass, don't take it serious. But so many things need to happen in that more like structured and thought out way, like as an artist or as someone within a scene, being like a promoter or a label owner or a manager or anything like that. And like I don't have, I guess, like a structured background, I guess, in like that kind of thing, like PR and maybe marketing or things. But I've like taken an interest in it in a way
Hmm.
that, because I think everyone, should be their own biggest advocate, and you really do have to learn to talk about yourself. Like in the last year or two, that's like been my, like what I've been working on is just like, how do I make myself seem interesting when all I want to say is, it's no big deal. I just do this. But I think like as artists or creatives, like you have to learn that kind of thing. So is there anything like from your more like professional life or background that you think people should be more aware of in like as like artists or DJs or radio show presenters, or just like, I mean, they're both professional, but like so many people don't take it as like, you know, professionally. I don't know if I'm wording that right.
Yeah.
That make,
I no, I get what you're saying. I think like one of the big things for me, and a lot of people have like tried to talk to me about this and like understand just like, how did you position yourself in
mm,
this way, because I'm not signed to a big label, like I'm,
yeah.
but I've gone on tour and I booked that tour myself, and
Wow.
things
Yeah.
like that. It's there's transferable skills in everything, and like, people will have like their day job, and that's working at like a fast food joint, and then
Mm,
they're like producing music all night. There's nothing wrong with working at a fast food joint, but if like they're complaining that they're working at a fast food joint when they could be, having a lower level social media gig for a real estate company or
yeah.
some shit,
Yeah.
it's that's still a transferable skill to something that you can utilize for your music career if
Mm,
it's that important to you. So I always try to tell people like, um try to do something that you can, that will benefit what you're passionate about.
yeah.
So like for me, it worked out like really well because like I work in the music industry, for jazz and world music artists, but it's, I mean, a lot of like the skills and the organization and that sort of stuff is directly transferable to, the drum and bass stuff that I'm doing. But I mean, then you get into the relationships aspect,
Yeah.
which relationships take a long time to cultivate. And um, I like those are different, very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just like two different that I have to live in. And
Mm,
yeah, but
yeah. No, you made a good point. Like the relationships part. I think that's like maybe almost like the biggest thing is just learning how to talk to other people, and just in a, like a genuine kind of way, or
mhm,
just being not necessarily specific or focused, but just like, because we're all more or less working towards like the same thing, just the success of ourselves or each other or the scene as a whole. Like no one thing is going to keep everything going, but every person doing their own like little thing, this radio show, this event, this label, whatever, here or
mhm,
there, is what's keeping stuff going. And you have to remember that it's made of people. Like everything is just another person, and a person like with a life and hopes and dreams and all that kind of thing. But you
mhm,
can't just treat things as an entity almost, and just like, this is the way this has to be, and this isn't a team of people. This is, and I always use this example because it's like, I know what's going on behind the scenes, but no one, everyone else is just like, oh, hospital's doing this thing. not just to
Yeah.
bring that up. They're like, hospital's doing this. So like, no, this person is doing this. Don't get mad at this person for, doing something you don't like, or not necessarily you don't like, but just, I don't know, I was kind of getting out of the way there. But just being able to build up relationships, I think that's the biggest thing, especially for me being basically internet based when everything is in the UK, and then I'm in a scene that more or less doesn't exist outside of my group of friends who I love dearly. But like, just to put it in like perspective, I can't go like down the street and then run into some famous drum bass guy or a DJ or something like, here's listen to
Yeah.
my song. I'm like,
Yeah.
can I send an email and not get blocked or get through this, or can I just send you like a DM on Instagram? And there's so many different ways to approach that, but like the best way is always less about what can this person do for me or what can I get from them, but let me just see how they're doing right now. Because
Yeah.
a few questions later, it's always, oh, I see you write music or something, or I see you do this. Let me know if you need anything. Just like that, like
Yeah.
phrase. And it's not like the empty version of let me know if you need anything, which is thanks for talking, leave me alone. But it's just like pick back up. And yeah, I got on a weird tangent, but just like I feel like people just really need to definitely focus on relationships. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like send you the meeting minutes in a specific to whom all concerned. I would love to be a
Yeah.
part. It's just like, there's ways to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's,
I
yeah.
think I think that one of the main ways to do it is seeing what you can provide for the
Mhm.
community. Because if you're very passionate about drum and bass,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're gonna want to lift everyone else up. And like, so in my instance, I have my radio show,
Yeah.
and when I was like pregnant, and I'm obviously wasn't going to party, and then the pandemic happened. Like, like that's a span of 2 years, that a little over 2 years that I wasn't going out. I wasn't like trying. I wasn't
Mhm.
like networking in person, but just like connecting online through Facebook groups, like the woman in drum and bass group,
Yeah.
and on Facebook was like huge, and like asking like, does anyone want to do a mix? I have like a little fan base that listens to my show. It's nothing like
Yeah.
crazy, but like you can, I will share you with them. And I mean, yeah, I lift them up, they lift me up. And there's yeah, I've done like crew takeovers on my show,
Mhm.
and some of those crews like then ask to book me,
Right.
and it's all like, I don't know. I like try to lead with gratitude, always, and it it comes back if it's
All the
supposed to.
time.
Sometimes it doesn't, but
Yeah.
like if it's the right thing that's supposed to happen, then yeah, it comes back to you.
That's
Mm.
perfect. Exactly. That's kind of how I think it took me a while to kind of realize that, at least. And then it's like this kind of context. It's like another one of those things. Like, first, I'm like, people are more professional than I'm thinking. And then it's also like, oh, this, like, the just giving towards something and just with, like putting like your energy and like effort into something to build it up, but not necessarily expecting anything in return, or just like you see somebody who needs help, so you give them advice or something, but you're not like, all right, I helped you out. Now, can you give me this person's
Yeah.
email so I can get here? It's just, it works, so much better, I think. And I think that's one of the things I try to tell people about, just like, because I get those emails, they're just like, hey, can you listen to my track? Hey, can you just like, they're kind of take.
Hmm.
And some of them are just kind of like, you don't know any better. And some are just basically like, give me what I want, or I'm just going to be mean to you in whatever internet fashion, which is,
Yeah.
that dies away quick, but most of the time. But again, it's always comes back to relationships and communication and just like these human skills or these human
Yeah.
qualities that I think help things the most. Which also makes
Yeah.
me talking about. I don't know how I was going to transition that. I had a better way, but I'm terrible. Anyway, so like the past year, there. I mean, we've had the pandemic, which was just I don't want to like talk about that too much, but I guess like it's almost over. Who knows? Or are things are kind of opening
Yeah.
back up, but then closing back, and then it's a completely different story. Like in the UK with how things were going to open, and they're like, "Oh, we got pushed back a month." And it's like, well, I'm in America. Well, nobody was paying attention in the first part. It's like I'm still weird about going out in public or anything, but more specifically, like in the, it's given people time to really mull over what's going on in the scene. The positives for sure, but then all like the negative aspects of things, which is a lot of it is based around like equality and things like that. So like the last year, it's there's more or less because there are no shows. Like, hey promoters, let's start thinking about booking more inclusive shows or labels being more inclusive, whether it's race or color or sexual orientation, anything like that. And then you have, and then like inclusion riders and things, which is also something I want to talk about with you, or just like because I know, I guess you have that point of view from like a different music scene, being like in jazz and world music. Is like it doesn't, at least from my point of view, is I'm not in it as much, say, as maybe you are, but like it's a lot of times there isn't as obvious of what's wrong here because you know people don't want to talk about things. But it's like if you look at it enough, you see, oh, kind of like in the drum bass where, oh, the same people are getting booked, and now like you're seeing posters
Mhm.
right now like, hey, we've had a whole year to restructure things and you're still booking the same four people. Like
Yeah.
what's going on there? So like what has been like your, I guess, experience or point of view in like this past year with like that in mind and just seeing, because I guess it's another thing is like we're over here, so we're kind of removed
Hmm.
from that hub, but we still see what's going on even though we may not have as much of an influence. So
Yeah.
does that make any
I
sense?
mean, yeah, no, it does. I guess like on a more like local level,
Mm,
I've definitely seen more, at least more women empowered to become,
yeah.
DJs and you know, feeling good about being booked. And I I mean, in like my professional stuff, like jazz and world music, everyone's a minority,
Mm,
and
yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's so like the the like inclusion riders and things like that aren't really like
Mm,
necessary on that front. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important for our scene in general. We don't, like you said, we're not in the hub, so we don't see it as much because like our shows aren't as expansive.
yeah.
But I feel like just like on the general landscape of electronic music in the United States. There's like certain crews. I mean, I'm part of like DMB Girls,
Right.
which
Right.
is we've been around for a long time, and like Iris is part of it, and
Mm,
we're we are a group of women that lift each other up essentially, and but there's like girl gang, and
mm,
there's like different groups specifically for that in that sense. I'm not particularly familiar with anything on like in terms of like race or minority like that happening in the
mm.
US. Are you?
No, not really.
Yeah.
But
um
go ahead. Sorry. I was
I d-
like,
personally, I don't feel that discrimination.
mm,
when I am like when I'm working on my bookings and things
Yeah,
like that, here, I'm sure, like, I mean, people are saying it happens everywhere else,
of
which,
course, yeah.
I'm sure it does, but just that's like my experience, which I guess is like a good thing for for the US. One good thing.
Yeah,
So,
one good thing. No, I think that makes a good point because I kind of feel as if, as far as like the U.S. is concerned, like I haven't gotten them. I mean, I guess fairly new as far as like how, like, the scene is like from the '90s and all that stuff. But it's like there's like this gap
mhm,
of that older generation who was there in like the early 2000s and the '90s, and then it's like this, which is 2010s up till now maybe, and
mhm,
there it seems like more people are aware. Like I feel like it's less of a maybe inclusive. It's less of maybe like, oh, less black people are getting bookings or something or like that. But I think in America's itself is just like they're everything's been pretty, I think, good as far as everyone at least having like a more or less fair shot without
yeah,
geographical things getting in the way. That's more, I think, the kind of what's hindering things maybe because like even like if I drive anywhere, it's going to be 4 or 5 hours. It's like you're not going to see me around. That's just what's going to happen. But I think,
I think
yeah, go ahead.
I think there's discrimination rooted in jealousy on like the artists that are coming over it like from
Mhm.
house or dubstep or whatever to
Yeah,
produce drum and bass. They're like dirty and like we can't like their tracks or whatever. I mean, if they're good producers, they're good
Mhm.
producers. Like, I mean, sure, there's like different mixing styles that different DJs are gonna have, and
yeah,
it's yeah, that whole stigma's stupid, and I think that yeah, I should just lift each other up. It's like cool if a house DJ wants to produce a drum and bass track, like let
yeah.
them produce a drum and bass track.
No, I think that's actually a good point that I was like I didn't consider. There is definitely the are you a traditional junglist? Oh, you just got into drum and bass last week. Oh, you can't DJ here. Even if like
Mm.
it's like what? Just it's supposed to be music, it's supposed to be fun. But then you have like and I've come across more of that here. Definitely like the elitist kind of point of view of things.
Mhm.
And it's always the older crowd who remembers the good days. It's not always, but it's like the older crowd that remembers the golden age of things and how that used to be. And they have no idea what's going on now, but like if you mention Diesel Boy or something, they lose their mind. And which isn't bad. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, why not? But when you ignore everything that's going on now, that kind of also fragments scenes, and I think that's kind of why
Mhm.
things are so fragmented here a little bit, or were, because I feel like they're getting better now,
Yeah.
sort of. Let's. What do you think?
I think they are. Yeah, I personally think they are. Uh, but we're just like in such a transitional period
Mm,
right now coming out of the pandemic. And I think over like the next couple months, like through the fall essentially, we're gonna like really see these things come up. We'll see who's getting booked.
yeah,
We'll see the beef come up,
yeah,
on our feeds and shit.
mm,
And it's like, we'll know. I think it's getting better. The with there's always going to be that elitist point of view. Because it's just shit was dope back in the day. Like it was, it was really cool, and I mean, it's cool now. Too, and it like yeah, things get commercialized. It's gonna
mm,
happen. Like with something as wonderful as drum and bass,
yeah,
like it's gonna happen just in like electronic music in general. Yeah, I don't know, we'll see, we'll
mm,
see.
yeah. I would just wait for that comment. Oh, the U.S. is gonna ruin drum and bass like it did dubstep again, and the Skrillex is going to
Right.
take. There's going to be a new Skrillex taking over the place. It's like, I mean, it survived this long, and it's still firmly rooted in what it was. So there's always room for just a bit of an evolution, things changing. Like, yeah, just I mean, even between just like not like we are necessarily doing anything crazy different, but we both
Hmm.
have our own way of doing things that it grows just that much. It's like the subtle changes. It's that maybe I don't use an amen the same way somebody else. Maybe somebody will listen to me, and then somebody will listen to them, and all of a sudden there's like this way of this whole new thing, or just how things kind of they start small and they grow bigger, and like
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and technology too. Like
yeah,
things aren't. I was trying to like describe. It was actually like like I was talking about hospitals. We talked about hospitals so much in this. Yes. Yeah, I was trying to describe like how like their older catalog, when I was going to raves, how it was like it was like it's like so emotional,
mhm,
emotionally moving,
yeah,
in comparison to like the other music that was getting produced at the time. So like that's why, people really admired it and were able to connect with it on that level. And,
yeah,
yeah, their sound changes, and we have crazy production technology at our fingertips now. So like, sure, there's going to be a more expansive drum and bass sound like
mhm,
all over, and there's going to be more subgenres. And it's not, I don't know. I think that it would benefit everyone, to not look at the separation between everything, like
yeah,
not to scoff at someone that creates liquid or minimal.
mhm,
Um, it all grew out of the same
yeah.
drum beat.
No, that's yeah, it's a really good point. I feel like that's something I'm constantly just like on people about is just stop worrying about like of course you have to there's the separation because just like categorically speaking it helps. Oh, this is liquid. This is when you want to references like it's kind of like its own its own language more or less. Like you have your terms and your way to describe things, but don't let that limit like what you're doing. Like if you want to make something liquidy, of course you're probably going to use like a think break and a piano, but there's all these other instruments and sounds you can use to make it
Hmm.
your own. And just from like a writing perspective, I think there's just so much that still hasn't been done, that still could be done and done well or acceptable, whatever that means to you. But
It doesn't
like,
even need to be done well.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. Just
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 done.
do
Just
it. Like,
you just described me and everything I do. I guess that's okay. Doesn't have to be done well. Just like I'm gonna do it and I'll get better in the process. Like even
yeah,
that helps. It's people are just like afraid to be terrible before they get better almost. That
yeah.
actually sounded like the most coherent thing I've said all episode. But yeah, just like you have to be bad before you get good, or things will sound bad or unacceptable, or for whatever reason, like
Yeah,
people hated Liquid for a while because it was like, and then it was like intelligent drum and bass and things.
yeah.
But then like now it's like more popular than anything. I mean, and accepted to
Hmm.
begrudgingly 40-year older bald black t-shirt guys, but I just alienated a lot of people, but that's me. But yeah, I think other than that, like it's still growing like positively, and especially after this year, people are a lot more geared up to do things hopefully differently or just explore a bit more, just because you had the year basically of no live shows for a music genre that more or less exists in like a live setting. So that's
Hmm.
taking a lot of people to reset and write differently, or the people who maybe don't necessarily DJ or produce music, maybe they throw shows or things like that. They're looking into something like letting vocalists have their own shows. Just like a
Mm,
lineup of all vocalists and live PAs and things like that, where they just play like the instrumentals or sing, and like Inja does like poetry and things like that, and just branch out into something different that either we all kind of want or we don't know we want. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like build the
yeah,
show and like build something that people don't know they want yet, but like it's there.
yeah,
So when they finally discover it, they're like, oh, okay, this has been going on for how long? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I totally feel that. I mean, I'm doing that. I feel like I'm doing that right
Mm,
now. For myself, I like struggled for. I mean, this kind of reverts back to one of the earlier questions you asked
mm,
me. I struggled to like figure out how I was going to implement like the ethnomusicology passion into like drum and bass. And um I'm a good organizer, and like I have the space movement brand and
yeah.
things. And what I'm trying to do right now, I'm having a lot of trouble finding a venue
Mm,
for it, but um I'm trying to create like a more cultural type event, a
yeah.
night that would happen like on a bi-monthly basis. Like we'd have like a normal, we'd bring in like a performer, a DJ,
Mm,
and I do like a live Q&A with them.
oh yeah.
You know, have like a dance crew, have a local artist that's like inspired by the music, like just like really try to bring in all of the different
Mm,
aspects of the culture together
yeah.
for an evening. It's not just like a normal party,
Yeah.
and I think preserving that part of our scene, the history is super important. And,
Mm,
like that will help for like the purists out there, that will help the younger generation
oh yeah.
develop the appreciation that they don't see apparently,
Mm.
but yeah, I think they do. So, um, I mean, yeah, I'm working on that right now, but I
That's
don't
awesome. Yeah.
have,
It reminds like makes me think of like when I was doing my graduate degree. Like one of my first classes was, I think, based in ethnomusicology, and I was studying like Latin America, South American music, like from Brazil, Havana, like samba, cumbia,
Mhm.
things like that. And then it was in the middle of it, and my professor had like started talking about like just briefly like a little small note in between everything else. It's like, oh, there's the samba bass genre. I'm like, what? But like it's like samba, and then basically it was just like what it came out to was Brazilian drum and bass. I was like, oh, I can talk
Yeah.
about this. So immediately I'm
Yeah.
like on like Blackboard and like our forum thing, like Brazilian drum and bass. There's like Marky, and then there's Spy, and then there's Petit, and then there's Drum Magic. And they're like, oh, you could do some
Yeah.
like research and dig in on this. I'm like, yeah, but like just in context of a middle of nowhere Missouri like music school or music program at a state school, it that's I could complain about that all day because it's kind of disappearing right now. And I'm glad I got out when I did, but it was like I didn't think I would make this kind of connection. And so I see like what you're describing of wanting to do. I think that's like could be really important, especially I mean at any time, especially now. It's just like because I feel like people are more receptive to everything else that's going around outside of just the let's see five DJs for a night, but let's like
Yeah.
intersperse some relevant educational things through in there in the middle, and then still party at night, or just that
Yeah. Yeah.
balance. Yeah. So I think that's a really cool idea. And I want to definitely. I don't know how I could help, but I definitely want to see it happen.
No,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah. I mean, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
I'm just the
Mm,
venue things. I know people are having troubles finding venues for a lot of stuff. I
yeah.
like there was this crew that booked me here, but like for a show that was supposed to happen last weekend, but they just like couldn't find a reasonable venue because everyone wants to throw shows now, and you know, it's cool. It'll even out and it'll happen when it's supposed to. So I honestly have way too much stuff to be doing it right now anyway, but I like
Yeah.
just putting everything on my plate. So
Yeah, that's
the way I work.
also what I thought of. Like, that's definitely what like music and music school it's like prepares you for. It's just never not working. This is always something
Yeah.
going on. So yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone? Any, I don't know, just like general, what's your best piece of advice? Let's say that, just very broad.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't I don't think I'm one to give advice. I'm still stumbling through life, I feel like.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean just I guess lead with gratitude, like I said earlier. That will always help you, leading with gratitude and honesty. And you know, people say like follow your passion, but like make sure like you're doing it like for yourself.
Yeah.
Like what's true to you, because you know, yeah, if you do it for anyone else, it's not gonna work. Or the way someone else wants it, it's not gonna work. So
you're 100%.
Probably some
yeah.
shitty advice. Sorry.
No.
I wasn't prepared for that question.
No, it's perfect actually, because I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's the one thing that's helped me. It's like kind of like you ignore it for so long, then you realize, oh, that my teacher who told me this years ago, I should have listened. So now I'm just like, I'm saying the same things. Like, yeah, I don't think anyone like at this kind of point in doing, especially something creative, like if you're not doing it for yourself, you're going to be miserable, because it's not like we're just getting paid just to have fun, do all this stuff. You know, bills still come at the end of the month, but so you have to love it. But yeah, that's great advice. So, yeah, is there anything we can watch out for you for? You have your radio show. Do you have anything else coming up we should keep in mind?
No, not anything huge. I'm like working on a couple tour dates for the fall. So yeah, I guess keep an eye out for that or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know when this will air, but I'm excited. I'm about the show next week. It's one of my top 3 favorite artists of all time is going to be on my little old radio show.
That's awesome.
It's Bop. So,
wow. Oh man, I could pick his brain all day. I love him. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so completely like honored, and like I just like remember when he sent me his mix last week, I was like about to cry and I was like tearing up when I was listening to it, just because he's just sends you on like such like an emotionally moving journey. His sound is I can go on about Bob. I'm like probably the biggest fangirl over here.
Yeah.
So I mean, if this episode's not up before that,
yeah, I mean, I could still I'll just blast that all over the place, because I know I'm gonna be waiting for it. So, but yeah, it was great talking to you, and great. I'm really happy that you came on this makeshift show of a thing and sat through my questions of me just like, probably just like, is he actively trying to figure out what to ask me? He's just like so unprepared.
Oh my gosh. No, it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was, and actually being able to like, talk instead of like just text back and forth, which isn't bad obviously, but just like, voice in the face and a dog in the background. It's great. Yeah,
thank you.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you after I hit exit. I don't know. It's good catching up. Yeah, but thanks for being on.
Thank you.
All right, that's it.